Okay. So when we're done, don't forget to unplug the drives and return. We just need both of those. So we are going to use a virtual machine today. Only because we are not able to install regularly if you log into your account on the classroom PC. So my workaround is to give you the clone of the Windows 10 VM. Okay, so plug your external hard drive in, the one in the hard case. You're gonna need one of each. Grab one of each of the drive. So you're gonna plug the external hard drive, which is from the hard plastic case, and you can plug in the other as well. But we're gonna start with using the external hard drive first. So I bought this, like, and it's USB-A both sides.
Huh.
The new style. Pretty cool, actually. Hi. You want to grab the big drive, and then I'll give you Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. Today we are gonna do lab 4, which are first we're gonna do a little bit of image analysis with ProDiscover. We can't install application on as a regular guest user or your user account when you log in. I tested with my account on the Windows PC here. So this is why we're using a virtual machine. So at home, you should be able to do all of this without using the virtual machine. So you want to pick up one of those external hard drive and a little USB. Okay. All right. So let me get to my downloads folder. Download. Okay. So I'll walk you through this. So the first thing you're gonna do is plug in your external hard drive, which is the one in plastic case. Then it's gonna pop up a screen and you can go, your drive is gonna be called Element. I have a little bit different drive on there. You're gonna look for Windows 10 VM clone. Okay, there might be a bunch of other virtual machines for other classes pop up on there, but there should be a Windows 10 VM clone. So we're gonna open it and you're gonna see 2 files. One is gonna be the VBox. The other is the VDI. This is for the disk for the virtual machine, and this is the virtual machine. So we learned this from last time. We just double click the virtual box. Click the blue icon one. And then once you get here, you're just gonna go ahead and click start. Okay. So I simply browse to my virtual box file from on my drive. And then I would double click. So find it in the Windows 10 VM clone. Open up the blue icon file by double clicking and then click start on here. And it's gonna load your Windows 10 VM. So I made this earlier and I cloned it on your drive. And then the login that so what I did was this part right here, right? I forgot, you should also click start. Okay, I'll upload the changes. You want to grab external hard drive and a small USB. So we open up our file, start our virtual machine, and we just simply log in. The login is MVC 2022 for the student account. Anybody have errors on their virtual machine? You shouldn't.
I just sent it straight through.
Did you open the right one?
Yeah.
Windows 10 VM clone?
Yeah.
Okay.
So my login, does it say student workers like test 1, test 2?
Oh, that's the wrong virtual machine. Make sure that it says Windows 10 VM clone, not Windows 10 VM. That's for another class. So what you do is you can close it or shut it down on the inside. So when we work with virtual machine, treat it like a regular PC. You can shut it down on the inside and then close it. Yeah, make sure that it is Windows 10 VM clone, not the VM one. Hello. Otherwise, you won't have the P15. Pick up a drive and the USB drive. So one of each. All right. So once we have, so what we did was we did this step. We logged in as a student user, which should have the privilege. So once you logged in on your virtual machine, you should see this zip folder. That I put it in there. That's why when I clone it, then you're gonna right click and then you just choose extract all. And then extract. So we're gonna unzip our image. Okay. And this is a Windows image. It has some files, so we'll do a little bit of file carving, not so much, right? But I want you to, so the image, as you can see, it is a DD. So what I did was I opened up my virtual machine, right? I double click the blue icon file, and then VirtualBox is gonna pop up and you click start and you're gonna play your virtual machine like this. Then once I logged in as a student user, as shown on the lab, I access my desktop and then I right click, I choose extract all, and I have this unextracted folder now. I mean, uncompressed folder. And in that, it would have an image file. I won't use this until I install ProDiscover. So after you have your image extracted, you are going to find the application. So we need to visit this website to download. And you can search for it or you can type in the exact. So we can go open up our Edge browser. And you can search. ProDiscover Basic 8.2. Probably need to say download with it. Yeah, so here's the free downloader. Make sure that it's from ProDiscover website. Okay. So I want to say download. And sometimes it gives you oh yeah, download center. Let me see on this one what it looks like. Because a lot of them are like the download manager one, so you don't want that. You guys copy and paste in. I did enable bidirectional, so let me see. I'm gonna try it. Oh, it did enable that. Trying to see if we can search and find it instead of using the whole URL, but you can type in the whole URL and download. So if I use free download manager, it's probably gonna send a bunch of stuff with it, right? Or probably not ideal. So type this in. ProDiscover basic.freedownloadcenter.com/Windows. I'll do the same. Dash basic. So this is, so you gotta be careful with some of these like download websites, because sometimes they give you a bunch of junk with it. So make sure that, so we're gonna click this. Okay, not this, the green button. Close the ad. And then we can save it. You can put it on your downloads folder, or you can put it on your desktop. So this might take a little bit to do. So once you download it, you will need to install it. Okay, and you just use the default configuration when you install it. Now, the 8.2.5 version doesn't come with the bells and whistle like the real pro version. So on the pro version, you have a little bit more feature, actually a lot more feature, but this will show you how you can file card and you can analyze your disk. So in the future, if you ever get a hold of any hard drive that have, you know, that has OS and things on it, you can actually find files, even if the drive is not wiped. So what we want is, so once we're done with the download, we can open in the folder. Okay. So right, we need to extract. So right click, extract all, and extract. So when you download the application installation file, it's in a zip folder. We need to unzip. And once we unzip, you should see the application. So just double click that to install. The reason why, again, if you missed it earlier, we're using a virtual machine is because the Windows 10 here, they lock it down pretty good. So I'm not able to. So let's put it on your desktop. see if we will successfully install. If we can't successfully install, then we might as well just call it quit for the night.
About the label.
Huh?
About the label too.
On the computer,
What I try to.
in the virtual machine, you can try.
Where you can save it again?
On the desktop. Let's try it again.
Okay, I was able to.
On your laptop? Yeah, I was able to run it on my laptop, but
Well, I had to use administrator.
yeah, you have to use the
Yeah, 'cause
administrator.
otherwise, it didn't manage.
Let me see if it's installed on here. Okay. Oh, make sure we grab a drive from up front.
Hey, Professor, for the intermediate organization part that pops up.
Yeah, that's for MVC. So if it shows this, you just click OK and then point to your desktop. Okay, and then click OK. Then go next, accept license. You don't have to fill everything out, just use the same account. And then you can do for me only or for all users. I normally just put me only.
Yes, sir.
Huh? Oh, you guys are getting this too? Yeah,
Administrator, so that's the only way to manage it.
Yeah, you have to be on as administrator. Because you have to log off the account and log on as administrator. Okay, so right click the Windows button and choose sign out. Let me see if we can activate the administrator account. I don't think I put a password on it. But hold on. If not, we can escalate the privilege. So it should be.
But you don't have to
Just at the administrator
yeah,
membership. Okay, so we're gonna do a little fix. You are already in your virtual machine. You don't have to log out. I just remember you can change the account. Right click your Windows button. And then go to Computer Management Console. Okay, so right click here. Go to here, Computer Management Console. And then it's gonna pull up. You're gonna go to the local users and groups. I don't know why mine is really slow. Okay, so it pulls up like this. Open this up, go to users. Right click your student account, go to property. Okay. Select member, it is administrator. Then.
Yeah.
It's on the lab.
MVC 23.
Yeah, MVC Capital. Let me see. Password never expires. Hold on, let me see if I can log into that. It is the system administrator group though. So I don't know why it's not letting me.
No, it's just on the software. Just we need to click right and then it's gonna show you.
Say it again.
Yeah, right here. Where is it? Yeah, this one. Oh, sorry. Right here. Oh, you already started?
Huh?
Oh, it's
No, it's not installed. So,
They work when I downloaded it for everybody.
on install.
oh, so you install it for everyone?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I did too.
All right, let me try it again for everyone. Accept, student, next. Anyone? Click yes for Windows Firewall. Okay. So hopefully I'm able to, because it needs that one driver and
No, I thought it was too, but no.
so for that particular user, it won't. That's really weird. Yeah, I ran it on my laptop just fine. So once that's installed, you're gonna open it up. So on ProDiscover, you need to put in your project information first, because that's gonna help you build out your report after. So whatever that you're investigating, you need to make sure that you have some description and some information so you can generate your report. Okay. So here's my ProDiscover. Once I install it, this is my install file, so I'm gonna open it up. And then you just put in your project number, so this is gonna be 0015. And then project name, we want to put in Windows this image. You can put Windows this image investigation, whatever, right? And then this disk is 10 meg, so it's fairly small. And the benefit of that is like, it's not gonna take up a lot of time for you to run the analysis with it. You're gonna see that when we run the USB drive that's 4 gig, it's gonna take a bit, just like how you seen on the Linux side, right? So we can say 10 meg. Hard disk. What is it? Partition containing active and deleted files.
looks like my ampersand.
Open. So here's your project. Now what we want to do is, so if you have an image, you can bring it in. So that's what we want to do, right? That's the reason why I have that P15 file for you to use. So after you click open, you are going to click action, add an image file. So in here, right, you can click the add here, or you can go action, add image file. Okay. And then we're going to browse to the desktop. That's where our image file is. Okay, the P15. And then the DD file. That's your image file. So when you create an image file, you notice that on the bottom, it will take all of these file extensions. So if you're using a software that uses .eve, it will also work with those image and so on. So in Linux, when we use DD tools, it creates a .dd. DD is very common in all forensic software. So we're going to go ahead and click open. So once you, yes.
If I'm mistaken, you went on the home Then you press right click and then you gave permission to install or?
Oh no, when I install it, if you select for all users, it lets you, and you need to put your file on your desktop, not on C drive. It won't let you put it on the C drive. So when you select and install it, it gives you like unable to find the path. You just click OK and then you select the desktop. And then when it gives you the option to install for the user or for all users, you select all users. And then Windows firewall will pop up and you allow and it should go. Okay, so what we did was we had accomplished this task. We added the image file. Okay, so sorry, I meant for you guys to download, but you should have it on your desktop. And then on the left pane, you are going to be able to click on the content view. Okay. So here's your content view. Under images, you should be able to see your files there. And then if you expand it, this is a Windows system image, so you should be able to see the scene. And that's all your files there. Okay.
You have hit the wrong outline. I couldn't find the file.
Oh, you need it for your laptop? I can transfer it for you.
Okay.
It's on the USB, on my USB.
Oh, you wanted this USB?
Give me yours 27A USB.
Yeah, I was looking at it like, oh, how come I can't find it?
It's on the virtual machine.
Oh. That's what I was like.
Okay. So as you get here, what you will see is you will see all of the extra things that it finds. Your active files are here. Okay. Let me see if I have it on my USB.
That's the
Sorry, I'm trying to multitask at the same time. And so at that point, you should be able to see the type of files and the things that okay, so it's on my drive here. So just copy the P15 over. All right, coming back, sorry. So once you load your image, you add your image, you should see it here, and then you just go to content view under image. You should see the path of your image, expand that, and you should see your C drive. So this C drive belongs to the Windows machine that we took. Okay, so how did we get this? So basically it's a hard disk, right? We plug that hard disk into our system and then we create an image and that's how we get this. Okay. So if you expand, it's going to give you some of the, so if you want metadata, it's there. Okay. All the things that relate to the OS, the recycle bin is there. So sometimes you want to go into the recycle bin and find some data. So in the lab, it gives you a little bit of explanation. So when you see the extend, that's your system volume information. And the majority of your Windows OS, that's going to be NTFS file system. Then your ProDiscover, you will perform, so you don't need to really analyze the volume. The software will do that for you. Okay. The recycle bin contain the deleted files, not fully deleted, right? It's just a container that it will be deleted. The deleted files is actually when a user clicks empty recycle bin, or they right click or they press delete on the key. But the forensic software, it's always gonna give you stuff like this. Okay, but if they zero out their disk, you cannot find it. Okay, so on the hard disk, we're able to see that there are deleted files. So if I put this in my recycle bin and empty recycle bin, it will end up here. Okay. So on the upper right pane, it's gonna show your root C. You're gonna see that there are 3 files on the bottom. So when we come back to C here, you're gonna see these 3 files. See how they're color coded? If it's in black like this, and you can scroll right a little bit, it tells you the date that it was created. Even when we open this up, it won't change the creation date, right? The whole point in using the software is to see what kind of file is it, what's in the content, right? And we won't modify it. So it shows here that it was made in 2014. And then the timestamp for it. So these are the active files that are in the system. So if I save like my file to my C drive, that's what it's gonna look like my documents, my pictures, and so on. Okay. And so here you would list those files. So how many files do you have? You should say those 3. And then those are the active files. So your active files, you can also see them when you look at your all files. Okay. So these are the files. Now the green and the red and your system volume information, you can also find system volume information. These are the attributes, okay, of your container and your objects. Okay, then next we're going to open up the file and take a look. So go down to your active files, which is build or write. This is a document, so it tells you the file extension here, right? You're going to open it up. And because we don't have Microsoft Word on install on our Windows 10, it's gonna take whatever that it was used to create, it's gonna interpret it and use the WordPad. So in the future, when you do this, assume that if you're gonna explore the document, you want to install Microsoft Office. If you don't have license, you can use OpenOffice. Okay? Some form of Office software. So when you double click it and open it, what you're gonna find is you're gonna find some content information about that document, right? So let's say that if this was a letter from a person to another person and they're committing fraud, then we have some information for our evidence, right? So you want to take a screenshot of it, you're gonna paste it there for me. Then you're gonna go back to here, and then you're gonna open up the images. So how do so open up the images, and your OS is gonna try to open it up. You should be able to see like some form of picture. Hold on. There you go. Okay. So you will be able to see some kind of image here, and we won't change the nature of the file. Okay. So when I double click images, right, what do you see? Huh? So double click here, and then the file size is listed here. So you have 6,937 bytes. So it's about close to 7 kilobytes. Okay. So what this shows you is you can actually explore some of the files. Now, on the view, on the right pane of the ProDiscover, you might be able to see the type of images, Also the header in ASCII, it would say like JFIF. On the metadata, the cool thing, when you later on, you're gonna see that we're gonna work with images. When people take pictures with their camera phone and they turn on the flash, it actually records all of that. So it puts in like, you know, if they're using Shutter, so for JPEG type of images, there's a lot of things that can go into metadata that you can find that's really cool. So what you see here is on here, we would describe the file size, and then you're gonna open up the puppy, and then you're gonna look at the ASCII view. Okay, so here's your puppy. Right, that's a puppy picture. And then how do I know it's a JPEG? That little tag right there where it says JFIF, that represents the image JPEG file. That was in the file header. So the system, when you look at it, it would look like this. So on our forensic software, it's just mumbo jumbo, except for a few things that we can find in plain text, right? But the details that we need is actually already here in this part. Question? Yeah.
I'm wondering, all the post numbers that's like, with all users saying that I'm not allowed to.
You can't install it on the classroom PC. It has to be on the virtual machine. Did you open up the virtual machine?
Yeah.
Okay, and you would have the Windows 10?
Yeah.
Okay, and then when you install, did you click desktop as your destination?
Yeah.
Okay, I will be right there to check. Okay, so for the rest of you guys, keep on going. So what this teaches you is you're gonna be able to have different view on how you can look at the file. So some files, it will be able to drop the thumbnails in there for you and be able to see, but not all files will allow you to do that. Okay, so keep in mind that thumbnail sometimes doesn't come up using this. And then you're gonna take a look at the deleted files and see any kind of files in them. So you are on the regular. So that's not.
Bless you.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I mean, yeah, I don't.
Yeah, so somebody added their own account to the hard drive and lock up the whole VM. Like, what do we call it?
You can't install anything on the, yeah,
I'm having trouble downloading ProDiscover.
okay. Type in the URL. No, that's use the URL.
No. We have it.
Edge is not very good for 30 minutes.
In the search. The inbox. The inbox. Right there.
So go back to your back document.
Or
HTTPS.
apps. Okay, this is okay. Here's what you download. What you download. What you download.
So you're gonna make sure to type in the whole part of the URL and it's ProDiscover, yeah, the same thing. Kind of exactly like that, you find it. Okay? It's like a little bit of work, just gotta type in the full URL.
Christine doesn't let me be in the information because I need that.
You download it.
Oh, I need all the things for file.
We don't have.
Question. So, click on the next step, file, the.
No, it's big.
So in ProDiscover, there are some sample of this image. There are other sample things that you can use. So when you download the software, you should be able to do that. Okay.
It's a mess. So this is supposed to be downloaded in that. So this is gonna be where the image is. That's gonna be out. We're gonna use the new. So
How we do it?
other side.
Get it?
Alright. And then I would. For later, make sure it's in the person that can look through that. Don't move it. Yeah, it means. So it'll delete the thing. So go to the inbox. Close that and try to open that. You add.
Willing?
The new drive element.
Okay.
The element
Desktop.
down. Yep.
Go.
Before you do anything, I want to see some setting for it. Make sure. It doesn't actually copy paste, but it's over like.
Yeah, a lot of times we can do two windows with the same. Sometimes.
That's not. We didn't have to type it in. So, okay. Sorry.
So make sure your image is extracted and load the PDF file. Other questions? So when you look at the deleted files. Okay, as we see here, we should be able to have two. And when you click on it, you should see the ASCII. This section is for the ASCII. And you know it's a JPEG if you see the file header like this. The .doc, it won't have that. Okay.
Yeah.
So look at the files that you find. Have a typo here. Then we're gonna take a screenshot. Hello. I'm gonna grab one of the hard drive and one of the USB there. Okay, then we're gonna open up the image and see. So once we have this, so the image is this one, you double click, right? It shows the smoking gun, hence the name. And so once you have that, we're gonna double click the document. And then we can screenshot that. What an old document, 1986.
Extract that. That's what extract.
So once we view all of that.
Edge.
I wrote down, you have to have to see all files on the left hand. Yes.
So, what is it? Huh? Like, what is it?
How much RAM
Yeah,
did you put on the VM?
You guys might not have all the files, it would just be all selected files. like this. So for this part, if you don't see the all files, right? You should be able to, but if it's missing like mine, it's fine. You don't have to worry about that part. Then, I'm sorry?
It's on file, on select file?
No, there's no all files on yours, right? Yeah, they removed that option of the new version, so it's okay.
Skip that part.
Yeah, we're gonna skip 27. On the old version of the software, you should be able to find the all files, but now what they do is they put it here. So if you click the C, right, it lists everything here. But anyway, so we're gonna do some disk analysis, like what we learned in the chapter this week. Okay. So under the cluster view, you can expand this. And it should list your same image that you load. Okay. And here's your C drive. Remember in the book it shows this, or in the notes? This is how your disk would look on the forensic software. So what it tells you here is under the cluster view, you're going to click the plus sign to expand. And you should see your image just like how you saw the files earlier. And then on the top right pane, what you're going to do is you're going to see the physical drive in the cluster view. You should see the color grid. Then if you look at this, the first cluster starts with the red rectangle here. That's your 0 cluster. So remember that we talked about a file can be in multiple cluster or one, right? So that means that your file begins there. Or your disk, your disk would begin at that cluster. Now it's really important that we look at also the bottom part, because it's as you move it right. So if I click first, right, and then if I click the one here, you see how this is changed to 1,000. So what that tells me is from 0 to 1, the address is 1,000. Right? So let's think about it. If we start at 0 and then we increment by 1,000, and then we go to 2, it goes to 2,000. So that means that it's 1,000 in byte size for that cluster. And that could vary depending on the disk. Okay? So here, what it tells you is if you click on the red rectangle, that's your cluster 0. That's the beginning cluster. Okay, and then if you look on the bottom, you should see the address. So what I did here at the beginning, right? It's 0, correct? Then if I click the next one, it's 1,000. If I go to the 2, it's 2,000. So you see the differences from 1 to 2 is 1,000. From 0 to 1 is 1,000. So that tells us the size of that cluster, because these represent the address and they are sequential in how your cluster would look on a disk. So clusters are made of what? What did we learn last time? They are sectors, right? Okay. So all your files and everything is written to the hard disk drive on sectors. And clusters just represent a group of sector or one sector. It could be one or it could be many, right? So what it's telling you here is when you look at the addresses, it's really important to pay attention to the increment of the address to represent how it goes from one cluster to the next. Okay. So you want to put down the hexadecimal value. So for mine, I go from 0 to 1,000. Same thing should be with yours, right? So if I go from 0, that's 0. Then I go to 1, that's 1,000, right? Remember that this is not a decimal value. We can't say, oh, it's 1,000 bytes. We have to convert it. This is a hexadecimal value because if you look across, it's all hex value. So let's convert it. You're gonna open up your calculator. And you want to put it into the programmer mode. And then select the hex mode, type in 1,000. And what is it in decimal? 4,096. That's your byte count. Okay. Understand? So the software is going to give you the hex value, and you want to convert it to the decimal value, human value. So this is what you're going to get. Okay. So after I have 1,000 here, right? I tell you to use the calculator app. So it's 4096 bytes. So that's about how much? 4 meg, 4 kilobytes roughly, right? So now if we want to really represent certain sector, a standard sector is 512. So you take that divided by 512 and you would know how many sectors they use for that cluster. Okay. I didn't require you to do that, but we should think about that. So if I have 4,096 and my standard sector size for most part, it could be this or it could be 512. So let's say that it's 512. I take that, I divide it by 512. I have 8 sectors per cluster or that disk. Okay. Any question?
Hey, Professor, can you do the calculator thing again? What did you type in initially?
So you open up the calculator, right? And then you go to the top. You choose programmer. Then you select hex. Okay. Remember that we saw the 1,000. Where did I get the 1,000 from? Right here.
Got it.
So you type in the hex 1,000. And that gives me 4,096 in decimal value. That's our counting number. So that means that this is the amount of bytes that is used per cluster. And we can find out how many sector, 8 sector for 512 standard. Okay. So when you go to the cluster, usually the sector, it talks about the physical disk that has no concept of cluster, right? Your disk, your hardware, it doesn't really know what a cluster is, right? It's just a way that we designed it to section various parts. So when we click on the 0, this is the first cluster for the boot record. So you're gonna have for the older disks, it's gonna use the MBR. So here, what you see is they're color coded and it gives you this. So the green is the use. The blue is the unused. So when you click the unused, you're gonna see the different values. These are actually addresses at the low level. So they represent the addresses. So you can see that from one address to the next, the difference is 10, right? So when I go to the next one, it would have a different address and so on. So these are the unused. So you can examine it a little bit further. And then you can keep going. So on here, it shows you, you can go to like a certain, so I'm at 6B right now, right? You can go directly to that instead of clicking. I can type in the actual value that I can go to on my disk. And you can scroll right a little more. Okay. So remember that earlier we put the red, when we click it, it turned red, right? But if you look at this, it's actually green, dark green, and it is boot sector. So on a normal disk, your boot sector takes up the beginning part, which is at cluster 0. That's what the assignment is telling you. So on this part right here, when it tells you for the master boot record, Now, if you click out of it and if you look at the color code, sector 0 is actually your MBR. Okay, your master boot record. Any questions? All right. And then on the right, so if you look down here, what does it tell you right here? Your NTFS, right? So it tells us that that's the file system that this system used for Windows. If you scroll down, you're gonna see stuff in plain text right here. So on a system that has boot error, you're gonna see it there. That message is gonna show. Okay. So if I have, and this is common when you see like the boot Trojan back then, you're gonna see that it wipes out the MBR this way. It was really popular with Windows XP. So when it says this read error occur boot TMGR is missing. So your boot manager is missing. Okay. Press Control Alt Delete to restart. Then your boot manager shows after that. So this part right here is the boot process. So when it loads, it's not able to find. So it's gonna, this part stores the error information. And then it's gonna try to get the boot manager and it's gonna keep doing that. So this system is probably black screening. So if it's in a criminal activity, they would likely take out your boot so that way you can't see what's inside right away. But we can take the hard drive, take an image of it, and this is what you would see. Right? You would see that the boot is wiped out, but we can see fine file. Okay? Any questions? So some of the stuff you can see in plain text and the majority of the time you can't. So what it's telling you there, so put down the error, this red error, right? Boot manager is missing. So that's going to be your answer here. Okay. So I talked a little bit about the used and the unused. You can see blue for use, and then, unused, and then the neon green for use. So if I come back to here and here, and then I click C, this shows up, okay? And I can always go next and last. And what I want you to do is I want you to look at how the address changed from one part to the next, and you can use your calculator to be able to determine. So on this part here, it says now we would look at the logical drive. On the left pane, you're gonna click on C. Then on the right pane, you're gonna click on the cluster 0 again, and then you're gonna take a look at the starting address. So when you click on this, right, you see that it's this. Click on this, it's 200. On the C, it's 1,000. So I typed the wrong one here. So this one, sorry guys, I put in the wrong thing. So this should be 200. So on this one, what you see is when you click this right here, from the first part to the next one, it's 200. And then from 1 to 2, it's 400. So the difference is 200. So that means 200, that is a 512. And that's typical. So 512 bytes for this one. And then on the next one, it's 4,096. Okay. And then when you look at the C, which is the logical drive, so here I examined the whole image, this, and then when you click at the C, it would look like this. This is the actual volume for your C drive. So that will be from 0 to 1 is 1,000, 1 to 2 is another 1,000. So on the next one, your starting address in hex is 1,000. And then when we, oh, sorry, starting is 0. And then for your hex value is 1,000. And so when we convert that, right, we put that into our calculator and we would say that it's 4096 bytes. So on the logical drive, your cluster is bigger than what you would see on this, on your partition table. So on the partition table, it shows, right? It shows that it is 200 compared, that's 512 bytes compared to the C drive, which is your logical drive, and it is 1,000 in hex, which is 8 times the amount of sectors that you have. Any questions? Okay. So your cluster size is this. Now, when you move further to the right, you're gonna see that we are gonna see some information about that particular. So you can keep on clicking or you can use your arrow key. Right? So you see the incrementation that it's gonna change. And now all of these are used, but when you get to the unused, right? So you would see that there would be, it talks a little bit, there's some information, standard information, there's some file stuff. So there's some stuff that it will able to find security descriptor for the system, your volume name goes there, and additional information for your logical drive. Are we okay? Any questions? All right, take a screenshot. And earlier, when I looked at this, when I come back to the beginning, right? You see that your file system for Windows is always at the top. So if this is FAT or FAT32 or another file system, it will tell you here. So we know that this is NTFS based on the 0 cluster because that contains the boot information. It needs to know the file system in order to boot. And that's pretty logical for Windows system. Okay. Okay. So take a screenshot, then we are gonna go ahead and do the report. So view report. So we will probably need to put in additional information based on what we find, the evidence of interest, but it plugs this in for you already, and that's the nice part about this software. So if you have the Pro feature, it actually adds more things. But so as an investigator, we have to fill in all of these things, all of the things that we looked at, like the cluster size, some of these things, right? NTFS, some of the details information about the drive. We want to fill in the file information and all of that. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit more about file carving next time. So because this chapter we touch on like looking at drives, I want to show you how to use this on ProDiscover. But this software does a lot more. So if you look, right, you can make copy of your disk, you can calculate hash, you can do signature matching on files. You can do data carving from your file. Okay, so on the next one, so after that, we're gonna take a screenshot of our report. So this is the long part, right? We're gonna go as far as we can, and then it should, I tested it with the 4 gig and it did it like, I wanna say 30 minutes, 20 minutes. But hopefully the system here will be a little faster, but on your virtual machine, you do have a little bit less of a resource. Okay. So when you get to part C, what you're gonna do is you can keep this open, but you need to mount your USB. So go up to your machine settings, USB, and then you just gotta make sure that you plug in your 27A USB. And then click add, and then the Tonfa one, which I had, click OK. Then we're gonna do a new project, so we can save this. And then create a new project. So we're gonna do a new little one, then project name, image, and then we're gonna do a 4 gig. I like to put the size, and if you can put the model number and stuff, which is better. Okay. As much description as you can. I think the more clear you are with this, the less work you have to do down the line. And then click OK. So in order to make an image, the purpose of this is to show you how you can do it using the software. And whether you let it finish or not, I'll let that up to you. But once you have it finished, you can use it to evaluate. So this is how you can practice. Okay. You can also take image of your own drive and then be able to use the software. So we are going to go ahead and click add, capture image. Make sure that we point to see why it's not seeing my USB. There it goes. So if it's not seeing your E drive or your USB drive, plug it back in and then make sure you go to USB and select it. We did that last time with the Linux system. Even if you set it, you gotta select it. I think I forgot to write that down. Okay, then we're gonna go ahead and point to your destination, choose a local path. Now we shouldn't put it on desktop, but I want to make it easy for you. So you can put it on your desktop, right? And so in the lab, I have you point it to the desktop, and then you can name your project information. So project 01 USB. Now, if we don't put the file extension, it's just going to default to the file that ProDiscover Basic used. So, okay. You gotta give, so you can put your name and then the image number. It won't let you save without an image number. And then your description if you want. If you want it password protected for highly sensitive data information, you can do that. And click OK and you wait. So we will wait a little bit, okay, and let it go. So I hope that you're able to get some result. So ideally, when you do this on an Alienware system with 32 gigs of RAM and a pretty good processor, it should crank it out pretty fast. But because we have issues with permissions, then you are using your virtual machine, which is like a slower PC. So you got to give it time. So that the downside with the virtual machine is you're relying on the dedicated processor core to it. So I'm using a single core with the 2 gig of RAM, right? So it's going to be slow. Now, what I want you to think when you get to this other part, okay, if you're able to load and find the files, you just do the same thing like what you did before. But on this one, it is a USB image, so file system is gonna be different. See if you're able to find files, like just what you did with the image, right? The DD. And then after that, just reflect on what you learned, because it might just be a very short run through the exercises, but I encourage you to use the software and be more comfortable with it. Okay. So you have to make sure that you load the image, access the image, and in the image it will give you some information about the file. Sometimes it doesn't give you much about the file. And then you have to go into some temp information. We will talk more about where we can go to find browser history, email. We'll do some email investigation later on. So. Okay. All right. So while you wait, fill out some information for the lab, and then we only have a couple of things left before we turn it in. I think I have to re-record this, but